Hey there, everyone. Welcome. We are not in my home studio right now, but we are in my backyard. You'll hear some birds in the background because they are very happy on this spring day. This video that I have for you today is a tutorial on how to make a strawberry pot or perhaps a multi-sectioned planter. So this is my strawberry pot that I have, and when I planted it this spring I realized it was way too small. So this video is going to show the same thing, just larger, and I have a 21 pound piece that I'm making it from. So I show in this video how to do multiple balls, how you can add them together when centering a really large piece when it's more challenging. And also I show the key thing, which is how to dry a large piece like this evenly. One of the challenges that people have, often newbie potters especially, how do you dry something to prevent cracks? Cracks often occur from either uneven moisture when you join things or uneven drying. So I show in this how I cover my things to make sure that they dry evenly to minimize the chance of cracking. So I hope you enjoy this. Please drop me any questions that you might have below in the comments and I'll try to get to those. Oh, and the clay that I'm using in this is standard 225, which is a grogged, nice tan brown stoneware. I use it in my studio at school with my kids. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you all stay creative and keep potting out there. When starting a really large piece like this, I start with multiple balls. So this first ball that I have is a 9-pound hunk. Now, I do have clay that is a little bit softer than box clay. I have pugged it, and it's a little bit softer because I do have a rotator cuff issue, and I have a torn rotator cuff in one of my shoulders, so I try to take care of my body as much as I can. So here I'm starting off by coning. So coning is the process that I teach my kids to help them center by making sure that you are centered down where the clay and the bat meet, and then coning upward. It brings the off-centeredness up and out the tip of the cone. One of the key things about coning is you want to keep your clay domed as you do it. If the clay becomes flat with a top, it sometimes develops a well on the interior, and you can develop little pockets of slip, and it is not a centered piece of clay. So keeping it domed the entire time while you're coning is key. Now I'm going to take a 4-pound hunk and add it to my 9-pound hunk. Now remember that I have ribbed off all of the slip and I have dried my hands as well. So when I pick up that new ball, there's no slip between the new ball and the old centered hunk of clay. So as I put this on here, it takes a little less centering. Oh, and I wanted to emphasize, I tuck my elbow into my hip bone quite a bit. So my left elbow is tucked into my hip bone. That helps me to just lean forward with my left arm instead of just really killing my arms and using a lot of arm strength with the left one. So here again, I'm making sure that the clay where it meets the bat is always very, very centered. So I've incorporated that second hunk, and now it's still domed. I'm going to rib off this clay, and I'm going to put a third hunk together with it. So this next hunk is also 4 pounds. So all told, I'm going to have 3 4-pound hunks that I'm adding to the 9. So we've got a total of 21 pounds. All right, so now I'm doing the next one. Again, coning, using my elbow and my hip bone. As this gets bigger and bigger, I just want to make sure that I'm keeping it very, very centered down there where it's meeting the bat. And obviously this is much higher speed than it was in reality. I've taken like a 30-minute session where it took me 30 minutes to throw the whole strawberry planter, and I've brought it down to, I don't know, maybe 10 or something like that. Once again, I'm going to get the slip off of my hands. I keep a couple of microfiber towels there just for that. And I rib off all of the slip on the centered hunk. And this is my last 4-pound hunk that, again, no slip between these two. If you have a pocket of slip, it could present a lot of problems. Now, as I touched it there, I had what I saw was a little wet spot, so I took it off. And then I blend with my finger as I put that down. Before I ever had water, it should get blended. And then I'm going to finish with the top. Now, one of the things I should say about doing something like this is you are trying to incorporate all of these hunks together so they're seamless. You really need to make sure that they're all the same moisture. You cannot have different moistures of the hunks that you're adding together like this. And ultimately, if it's a little off center, when I drop the middle, I am going to recenter the wall in a bit. So I'll be showing that as well. So here I'm just really trying to make sure it's totally centered. And this was my last push down. Now I'm taking the heel of my hand, because this is such a large hunk of clay, I'm not using my fingers. I'm using the heel of my right hand, and I'm going to push it down until I have a base that's roughly 1/2 inch. So you can see I have a little bit of off-centeredness there on the outside, but I'm going to be recentering this. I'll also mention, you can't really see it, but my wheel is 25. Oh, and I just checked the thickness there, so I knew how much thickness I had left. My wheel is about 30 years old, so it is slowing and bogging down occasionally. I've noticed that with some of my older Pacificas. I mean, again, it's like 30 years old, so it is bogging down with this much, with the 21 pounds of clay. So I was checking my base and trying to get it right around 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to take a wooden rib, and I'm just smoothing that and kind of trying to smooth my interior corner. Now this little bit I have slowed down because I wanted to explain how I'm going to recenter the wall. So when the wall is a little wonky like this, I do a little recentering trick, and I have some posters hanging directly behind me where I talk about the recentering, and you might see the little arrows there. That it's to the right of me, where I am showing how I'm going to use pressure from the sides and the top to recenter the wall. So I'm taking my right hand and placing my right hand on top, locking it to my left. My left hand, I'm squeezing inward with the fingers on the inside, thumb on the outside. So by doing that, I'm recentering the wall some. And here I just did my first pull with that same sort of hand position, and it's sped up again. And now I'm just going to go ahead and pull up on my wall. Now, I should have mentioned, on the very first pull, I tried to ultimately thin my rim to close to the final thickness that I need the rim to be. One of the problems my kids make is sometimes they leave too much thickness at the rim, and then they thin it out too much underneath, and then it pulls it. It causes a pull or like a torque with it as they're pulling up, and it throws it all off. So I tell them, thin the rim out close to your final thickness, so as you're pulling up the successive pulls, you don't have this thick rim up on the top that you're worried about. So here my ultimate goal is I want to thin the wall so the walls are parallel from the inside to the outside. I do not want it to go down and get a lot thicker at the bottom. That is my whole goal here, is to thin the walls. As I do this, I am going to be concentrating a lot down at the base of the wall. So ultimately my walls, I want my walls to be like the same thickness from the top to the bottom. I don't want the walls to, get a lot thicker down there near the base. If the walls are getting thicker, it's not going to be able to dry evenly. So my whole goal is right here, I'm just using a little bit greater pressure at the base of the wall, and then I ease that pressure off as I get up. I don't want to keep thinning the wall and making it super thin near the top. Now, I'm not worried about my spirals at all, because I don't mind the spirals as I'm throwing. And sometimes you might have to change the position of your hand. Like there, I had to go a little bit more broad with my fingers down there, so I had a little bit bigger pressure area that I was pushing with my outside fingers, and I am using the sponge. I'm a sponge person. Some people don't like it. You can do it however you want. Now here I'm starting to create a belly because I want my strawberry pot or my planter to have a little bit more volume. I just realized that old poster that I have behind me there hanging on the cabinet. That's way before my students were even born. You can tell I've been teaching a long time when I have super old posters like that. But I always liked it, so I kept it. All right, so anyway, I'm billowing out more of a belly here. And the off-centeredness does become exaggerated if you belly and you have a little bit of off-centeredness. So I'm not surprised. I have a little bit going on with this one. I mean, it was 21 pounds. So I did cut my rim to level it up, and then I rolled the rim. Now, if you've never rolled a rim, you just make sure you have water and you roll the rim so it goes down and it touches itself. Yes, it does have trapped air, but it won't be a problem. Now, in order to cut a big thing like this, I take the splash pans off because I want to make sure that my hands are under the level of the bat. I need to be pressing down the whole time so my cut doesn't ride up. Now, once I've done that, I'm now going to put it in a cabinet to get it to stiffen up overnight, so 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever to stiffen up. And then the next day, I marked out the bottom on the inside. I divided it into 6s so I could just have some reference marks. Now, it has stiffened a little bit, but it's still sticky and plastic. So now I'm looking at my reference marks on the inside, and I'm dividing it into thirds. I'm making some horizontal lines lined up with the divisions of 6s on the inside. I'm doing 3 pockets on the top and 3 pockets on the bottom, and they are staggered all in thirds or 6s. So what I'm going to do, and again, this is super sticky at this point. I have my water, I have a sponge, and I have my knife and needle tool. So I'm just going to oh, and I'm taking off a little bit of extra right down there at the bottom. By the way, I'm on a turntable on my wheel, in case you're wondering about that. So I make my first horizontal cut, I push in the top, and I pull out the bottom. Now, this is sort of like a pitcher spout, where I am like pulling it out and then kind of thinning it. So as I do this, I pull out the bottom, stretching it, thinning it. I'm trying to make almost a little cup sort of form. I'll go back in there and I'll refine them again in a little bit. And then again, I push in the top, pull out the bottom. And the reason that I had to wait for this overnight to set up is because if I did this immediately when it was that super soft clay, I could have it collapse. So I wanted the clay to have a little bit more strength, a little bit more body, but you can see it's still extremely plastic that I have the ability to do this. I just wanted to take a little bit of that, the extra off the bottom before I did those final cups, because once I do those cups, I didn't want it to get in the way. All right, so now, and I did allow it to stiffen up just a little bit more because the bottom was even softer than the top there. So I gave it another hour or so, and then I'm doing the bottom cups in the same way. And I'm trying to think about, okay, well, how big are the strawberry plants or maybe the flowers when I am going to plant them? And I need to be able to pop that into the dirt in there. And again, I'm just trying to keep them right around the same level. Okay, so I push in the top, then I can get my fingers in there. And I'm kind of holding the pot by the inner cut, as you can see. And then just like, a pitcher rim, once you do this, then I definitely need to do some refinement and get it really refined and cleaned up a little bit more. Now, one of the key things about making something like this is allowing it to dry evenly, because now I have those little the little cups have some thinner rims. Like you can see that the rim of the planter cups, they are thinner than the top edge of the pot, right? But the key is going to be to allow everything to dry slowly and evenly. That's the key thing, even drying. So I'll show in a little bit how I promote even drying. It's not with the use of plastic. I'm not using plastic at all. Okay, and then I should mention here, once I have it cut, I am taking a, a needle tool and I'm just making like a little hole. My bottom is still pretty wet, so it's not popping out, but I wanted you to see that I'm making a drain hole. I'm just doing a single drain hole. You could do however many you want on your planters, but I have a single drain hole. It's probably like a good half an inch in width. Even though the clay isn't coming out right now, I'll be able to get it out when it's drier, when I flip it. Okay. So now I've let it dry like another day in my damp cabinet. You can see my cabinet back there. It is stiffer. Now I can flip it upside down, okay? And here on this bottom edge, this is the first time I've been able to flip it. So now I'm just going to take a rib, get off some of the excess clay because I always want the bottom to look intentionally clean. And I always tell kids, make your craft and design intentional, not accidental. That's one of my key things. I'm going to sign it. And then in order to promote this to have even drying, notice it is on drywall. I should have mentioned. I took it off that plastic bat and I put it on a surface that would absorb some moisture, so it's on drywall. So now with it flipped, in order to dry it evenly, what I like to do is I like to use a breathable covering. So I'm going to use heavy towels. If I had one large bath towel, I would have used one large bath towel, but I'm using what I have at school right now. So I'm using some terry cloth towels that are a little bit heavier. I'm wrapping it all around the form because the towels are breathable. It will allow air through, but they'll also hold in a little bit of that moisture and humidity, so it will allow it to dry more evenly. This is my favorite way to dry items with a heavy towel. It allows all parts of the wear to dry a little bit more evenly, and I do this, of course, upside down. And when it's eventually dry, I'll take off the towels and fire it. And I will use a super slow firing in my kiln because this is a big piece and it has a lot going on. So that is making a strawberry planter. Hope you enjoyed it.